The greatest secrets are always hidden in the most unlikely places. Even your own house could be a house full of mysteries. You won't believe these discoveries people made inside of their homes. In this video, we will take you through the 15 crazy things found in people's homes. Number 15. A hidden safe. Just imagine if you randomly found a hidden section in your wardrobe. What would you expect? You either find a door to Narnia, or there's a hidden safe that's actually breakable. If only we were that lucky. It seems like a new homeowner, Joe DeCrease, has had his fair share of liquid luck because he did find something so cool. Joe wanted to fix a loose tile in one of the wardrobes in the house, and when he lifted it, he didn't find the uneven surface of the floor. Instead, he found a not too shabby looking hidden safe. Now, that doesn't come with any house on the market, does it? At first, Joe and her daughter Rebecca couldn't break through the safe, and by the looks of it, they perhaps tried every numerical combination they could think of, yet nothing worked. That game of trial and error also called for some bets by the father-daughter duo. Is the safe full of money, or perhaps gold? Speculations remained until posting the photo of the secret safe, which got Joe some internet traction. That's when a locksmith noticed the viral post on social media. He noticed the serial number of the safe and contacted the original manufacturer to work past the code. And voila, the combination was cracked. You wouldn't believe what the safe was full of. It was just a metal cube full of water, and on its surface lay a single gold coin. Today, Joe's treasure is priced at $187. Better than nothing, right? But sometimes, what you can stumble upon is truly priceless, like our next story of a war survivor. Number 14. Family heirlooms from World War II. Before we dive into this crazy discovery, a quick glance into history will tell you that the Second World War stirred the expulsion of families from their homes and mass displacements. One of the families that had to abandon their home was the Schlattners, who fled Czechoslovakia when the president sought to drive all ethnic Germans out. No one likes to leave their humble abode, but this family had to leave in desperation. They gathered what they could and left their hometown. Back in 2015, Rudy Schlattner, the surviving heir of the family, decided to visit his now remodeled childhood house. His father had told him about a hidden treasure in their family house, but of course, 70 years later, Rudy's house had lost its original touch. Yet imagine his surprise when a small string hanging from the attic opened up the entire history of the Schlattner family. Yup, when Rudy pulled the string, a compartment in the roof opened up, and he found everything that his family had left behind, perhaps in the hope of going back to their home one day. He found old photographs, documentations, ink pots, books, and even some clothes. Now that's how you safely keep the family heirlooms. Who knew that Rudy would find a connection to his childhood home in the most unpredictable way possible? Not everyone is that lucky though. Sometimes, the most unexpected discoveries can leave you scarred forever. Number 13. Human remains. A contractor was doing his everyday uneventful job when he was suddenly traumatized for life. It's not an everyday occurrence to encounter a human skeleton on your day job, right? Let's just say that the police in Dutchess County might be able to close a cold case almost 3 decades later. In 1985, Joanne Nichols, a first-grade teacher, didn't show up for her hair appointment. And one thing women do take seriously is their salon routine. When matters became more suspicious, Joanne's husband reported her missing. Since then, no one was able to find her. Of course, the case was still open, but the lead will only come after Mr. Nichols was found dead in his house in 2012. He was 82, and well, his time had come. Surprisingly, no one from his family was around, so his house was pretty abandoned. And it turns out, James Nichols wasn't big on cleaning. In fact, his dead body was surrounded by heaps of garbage that he didn't take out. When the contractor was cleaning the basement, he noticed a false wall that looked strange. After all, behind the wall, there was a skeleton of Joanne Nichols, who had been missing for 28 years. To make matters worse, a huge chunk of the right side of the skull was missing, and her hands were tied. Doesn't take a detective to know that she was killed because of a blunt head trauma. John Nichols is dead, but now he's also the prime suspect in the murder of his wife. He surely knew how to get away with murder. Number 12. The Basement Ghost. Here's the thing, if we suddenly start hearing noises from our basement during the nighttime, we're either 1. Moving out, or 2. Taking matters into our own hands. A bunch of housemates from the Ohio State University chose to do the latter. The students were living in an off-campus residence when their house experience got quite bizarre. One day, the roommates woke up to find that their oven, kitchen cabinets, and microwave were left open overnight. Now, that was surprising. None of them took responsibility for this little oversight, and then it just kept happening. That's when the housemates decided to play Ghostbusters and search their house for any intruder. It was time to check out the locked door in the basement that no one had bothered to use, not even the realtor. And the plot twist couldn't have been more shocking. It turns out, what seemed like a cupboard in the basement was an actual room, and there lived something. Just not a ghost. Students found out that another student had been living in their house and had rent-free. The room was fully furnished, and the free rider even had pictures of his friends and family. Then it all clicked. One of the housemates had actually seen the man lurking around their building. He even introduced himself by his name, Jeremy, to him. Only forgot to tell him how they just happened to live under one roof as well. Surprisingly, Jeremy got off easy. He was evicted, of course. The roommates were relieved that their hunch wasn't too creepy. Our next Founder's Keeper can't say the same though. Number 11. Mummified Cat. Big eyes, small noses, and those cute purring noises. We already know feline creatures are excellent pets. Some European cultures had different ideas though. For starters, people thought burying dead cats in their walls wards off evil and protects them from dark spirits. Yup, they had their own plans for cats. Now it sounds disturbing to even hear about this. So you can only imagine what went down for James Spencer when he found a dead cat in the walls of his late grandmother's cellar in Bistrița, Romania. Does the city ring a bell? If you know your Dracula fiction, it's the same city that's mentioned in Bram Stoker's Dracula. Creepy coincidence? Check. The only question left is, what do you do with a mummified cat? Other than freak out, of course. Taking a page from Spencer's handbook, you auction it off for $1,500. And before you ask who's gonna buy a dead cat, well, we heard there was a line. Old traditions die hard, and some creep their way into secret underground chapels. Number 10. Secret Chapel. The Farla family will always remember the Good Friday dinner from the year 2010. After all, their little after-dinner shenanigan led them to a discovery of a lifetime. When the Farla family moved into their new home in Trafford, England, they noticed a strange metal grate near the entrance. Even though they knew that their humble abode was a Victorian building, they never got the chance to explore what hides behind the metal grid. If anything, the family found the mysterious passageway to be inconvenient, and they decided to cover it with a mat. What they didn't know was that they had actually covered an entrance to a secret underground chapel. Until 3 years later, the excitement of the unknown family caught up to them at the Good Friday family dinner. One adventurous man volunteered to work through the narrow space to see what lies below, and he was horrified when the pitch-black darkness revealed a fallen cross and rusty bench for the worshippers. At first glance, it seemed like the family was looking at a set design from an Exorcist movie. But then it was obvious that the place was sacred for centuries-old residents of the house. The family took insight from the local historians and figured out that the chapel dates back to 1700s England, when Catholics used secret spaces for worshipping to avoid persecution. Yet not all buried secrets speak of painful pasts. Some hidden treasures are a glimpse into our hopeful, more equal futures. Number 9. Treasure Attic. Jim Hawkins, Benjamin Franklin Gates, and Lara Croft. Fiction is full of some iconic treasure hunters. Even in their case, sometimes it's a hit or an embarrassing miss. Not for David Whitcomb, though. He hit the jackpot without even ever looking for it. As an attorney, he bought a 3-floored building to use as his office space. When he was inspecting the 3rd floor for renovations, he found something scraping off the roof, and he decided to bite. With the help of a friend, he found his way to the attic and discovered a treasure in its own right: centuries-old pile of portraits, photographs, gold-plated picture frames, and photography equipment. What really stood out was a mountainous pile of portraits of some dynamic U.S. suffragettes, like Susan B. Anthony. David had walked into a photographer's studio. And we're not talking about any random amateur photographer. The space belonged to J.E. Hale, who moved into the house in 1892 and stayed there till 1920. Hale's best work had a connection with the U.S. women's suffrage movement, and his work was even showcased in the 1907 convention for the New York State Women's Suffrage Association. Except, unlike our next crazy discovery, Hale's artwork doesn't have a whopping price tag of $25 million. Number 8. An original Picasso. If you're an art fanatic and want to see Picasso's most impressive work, you'd need that ticket to the Museo Picasso in Barcelona, Spain. Or you can just go to Staten Island to meet Carl Sabatino, because he happens to own an original Picasso. Sabatino had grown up while getting some quick glimpses of a painting that his grandparents kept as a secret. When his grandma was on her deathbed in 2004, she left her grandson nothing but a message in her will that read, "Check below the sewing machine." Now, a sewing machine isn't a very hefty will, to be fair. If we were Carl, perhaps we wouldn't even bother to check. But he took the extra step. And eureka! He found Picasso's recreation of Woman with a Cape. You know the painting in Cleveland Museum of Art from the 1950s? Yup, the very same one. Carl's granddad, a war veteran, had gotten the painting for around $10 from an art vendor in London. Now today, that little investment stands at $25 million. Not without countless allegations and suspicions of counterfeiting, though. And Carl has had his fair share of jabs for allegedly pulling one over on the art experts. Yet on microscopic testing of the paint, experts saw the chemical formula goes back to, guess what? Picasso's time. And the painting also reflects a technique that he had experimented with. Alright, this was one pleasant surprise for Carl Sabatino. Not everyone has stellar luck like him, though. Certainly not our next homeowner, Erica Carner. Number 7. A Metal Casket. If you're a household with 2 young girls, some chaos, and the thumping noise of them running around is pretty common. But when Erica Carner heard the same footsteps while her daughters were sleeping, someone visibly spooked her. Then, one day, construction workers remodeling her house found a small metal casket in the garage. And the casket wasn't empty. Inside was the carefully preserved body of an almost 3-year-old child, now recognized as Edith Cook. Her family was influential in the San Francisco area in the 1870s, and it remains true even today. So what's her story? Much to the Carner family's relief, there's nothing sinister or satanic about the burial. Experts say that Edith died because of extreme malnourishment, owing to an incurable viral or bacterial disease. Her lifeless body severely lacked any proteins, which are, of course, vital for human survival. And apparently, her family had given her a proper burial and made the Old Fellow Cemetery her final resting place. Yet as the city grew, the graveyard was turned into settlements, and Erica just happened to live on one of those. But nothing explains the creepy footsteps of a toddler that Erica and her family keep hearing. And our series of mysterious graves in unlikely places doesn't end there. Number 6. A Viking Grave. Alright, we have our fair share of stories of burying our favorite rock or a small toy in the backyard, or the family's garden. It's just part of human nature. We love discovering long-forgotten things, even if it means getting our hands dirty. Quite literally. But imagine the surprise of the family whose garden site in Oslo just didn't only turn up some childhood relics, but an entire Viking's graveyard. And it's almost 12 centuries old. For the first time in Oslo's history, the archaeologists discovered quite a handful. Gravestones, wooden shields, ring buckles, knives, bells are just quite a few things that were excavated from the site. Yup, that's just a classic list of materials that you'll find on any Viking burial site. Now, we know what you're thinking. Did the archaeologist find any human remains? That would have been groundbreaking, but unfortunately, no. Vikings had a ritual of cremating their dead over a bonfire, so all of the human remains must have been decomposed by now. Before we go on, like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that bell icon so you never miss on spooky and bizarre discoveries from us. And now, it's time for our subscribers' pick for today. One of our subscribers has shared one heck of a discovery with us, and when we're breaking down the craziest things people have found in their homes, we couldn't have missed this one. A woman inherited an old, rusty, almost shabby metal safe from her great-aunt. When you get a curious-looking safe, and the combination is just easy access, you know you're gonna crack it. And she did. What she found in the safe jolted her right through the core. It's difficult to digest your family history when it dates back to turbulent times in the Soviet Union. By the looks of it, the owner of the safe had to flee from her home, only to escape to the Nazi Germany. What made her flee? Was it Hitler's promise to destroy the Soviet Union? Was it Stalin's purges? It's hard to tell, but what's really interesting is that the safe also had an original copy of Hitler's Mein Kampf. Did curiosity kill the cat? Or did the owner leave her home to join a greater Nazi cause? No one knows. Use the hashtag #subscriberpick and let us know your thoughts in the comments section. Let's move on. Number 5. A tunnel. Ever heard of the phrase that there will be light at the end of the tunnel? Well, for Gary Machins, at the end of the tunnel, there was nothing but pitch black darkness. And nope, that's not some metaphorical gimmick. Machins actually discovered a 19th century tunnel underneath a crack in the sidewalk around his house. The brick tunnel is quite sophisticated, and it definitely took a lot of hands in building that structure. The tunnel at least dates back to the 1840s, but Gary couldn't find any historical records of his house. In fact, the house doesn't even appear on the maps till 1865. What's really interesting is that 3 mayors of the city of Alton have lived in Machins' house over the years, and that leaves a room, or perhaps a tunnel, for a lot of questions. So, did they know about the secret tunnel? Maybe they commissioned it for some secret mission for the government. It's hard to figure out why the tunnel was made, but its discoverer has a bunch of theories. For Gary, this could have been an underground railroad. Yet that doesn't exactly check out, because the city didn't have that sort of transit system. The other theories suggest it could have been a cellar or an ice storage. As long as you don't find human remains or occult decorations, any theory works out. Because as you'll see, getting caught up in a murder mystery is no fun. Number 4. Room behind the mirror. A legend has it that if you say the word Candyman 5 times in front of a mirror, a dark spirit will appear to avenge his unfair death by killing you. It couldn't get more grim than this, and you know we just ripped off the plot of the 1992 horror movie Candyman. But hey, all myths and legends start with some truth, right? Recently, a TikTok user, Samantha, discovered a room behind her bathroom mirror. As she walked through the hollow space, she noticed it's not just a room, it's an entire abandoned apartment. And this haunting discovery blew up on the internet. And one netizen couldn't help but to draw parallels between Samantha's room behind the mirror and an unsolved murder case from the 80s. Yup, take a breather, because this just got more twisted. In the case of Candyman, the loose inspiration was Ruthie Mae McCoy, a woman living in Chicago in the 80s. Her story became a popular local headline when she was murdered in her home, and her 911 call wasn't taken seriously. Allegedly, Ruthie told 911 that someone had crawled out of her bathroom mirror to murder her. And who was going to believe that? Murderers just don't crawl out of the bathroom mirror. Until you realize someone was actually living in Samantha's hidden apartment, as she found trash bags and a used toilet. It seems like these discoveries are getting crazier as we move on. But don't worry, some booze will save the day. Number 3. Prohibition Era Alcohol. If you get your hands on some nicely aged, smooth booze hidden in the walls, that's a jackpot right there. We can only imagine the surprise of homeowners Patrick Bacher and Nick Drummond, who found a hidden stash of alcohol in their bungalow in Ames, New York. And it's not just any alcohol. It dates back to the 1920s Prohibition era. Sure, the homeowners had always heard the rumors about the ownership of their house. The previous owner, Count Adolf Humpfner, had earned himself a reputation for dying a mysterious death. Not before making heaps of money by selling illegal alcohol, though. It just took 66 bottles of Gaelic whiskey for Patrick and Nick to believe the rumors. Number 2. A medieval well. Colin Steer had been living in his home for 25 years when he noticed a sudden indentation in his living room. Now, anyone else would have called the construction workers and gotten it fixed. Not Colin, though. Much to his wife's annoyance, he called a friend and decided to dig through. Thankfully, his labor didn't go in vain because he found a medieval-era well just there in his living room. The well itself isn't very deep, and its origins are still unknown. But when there's a well, there's a way to make your wishes come true. And someone certainly tried. Hiding in the well were 2 16th century artifacts for Colin Steer, a huge sword and a coin dating back to 1725. Now, we can't say if the person's wish came true or not, but hey, at least Colin's discovery isn't as creepy as it gets. Number 1. Secret Dungeon. Apartment rents are gone through the roof, and that tiny little cardboard box, you pay a whole lot of crisp dollars to your landlord. And if you can find some storage room, you know you got lucky. That's what Daniel Carley thought when he moved into his new apartment. He found a wide enough storage compartment fixed in the floor near his bathroom. And you know he was over the moon, until he discovered that his storage space isn't a storage space at all. It's actually the first step of the staircase that leads him to dungeons, right beneath his apartment. So of course, he took the risky journey, and for him, it was worth it. It's unlikely that someone lived down there, but Daniel did find an old newspaper dating back to 1984, and some random bunch of words carved on the wall. Let's not jump to conclusions here, shall we? Here's the thing though, Daniel's apartment was actually a monastery back in the 19th century. Now, that's your cue to come up with the most creepy theories ever. Thanks for joining us on this eerie journey of the 15 crazy things found in people's homes. See you in the next one.